Mute is off, and we're going to go in 3, 2, 1, and hi, welcome to
Hey,
G3. We're back with you today. I think we're number
eight.
eight. Eight.
Hey,
Eight. Wow, soon I'm going to run out of fingers on two hands. I'm so excited. We're a relatively new talk show. We focus a lot on tech, but we are women who live and work in the tech field, and we're glad you joined us today. Found us maybe for the first time, or you're back with us again, and we love that. Yeah, we've been getting some good feedback, interesting feedback also. So we'll get to that in a minute. I have my Fourth of July vest on
Looks
today.
so
It's my theme
patriotic.
vest. It's the only one I ever trot out. Okay,
I'm
so
jealous
I
right
would like
now.
to introduce to you our panel or our regular ladies. And today, Rebecca Woodcock. Hi, Rebecca.
Hello, I'm jealous of your patriotism right
I
now. I wish I had
know.
thought about it.
Mm-mm-mm.
I was thinking more warmth today because it's so cold in San
It's
Francisco. I
so
mean, it's
cold.
officially
cold.
summer. It's really cold.
Freezing. People don't
Oh, no, no,
understand
no.
that who don't live here or come here. Oh my God. It's like winter, especially where I live. It's like, psh. All right. Uh, Hallie Suit Tucker. Hello, Hallie.
Hey, it's so hot here.
Oh,
So you don't
darn. We're
know.
jealous.
And I don't have my red, white, and blue on. I'm really bummed. So
Well, you can't all have spiffy vests like this. What can I
I think
say?
not.
Huh?
So
And
anyway, good to see you, ladies.
Mary Hodder.
Hello, and it's a lovely 78 and sunny here in Mountain View.
Okay, well, little
It's
jealous there.
90.
Little jealous there. I think we have to go to Mary's house and have some warmth because I don't know. It might be 55 here or something. I don't know.
Iced tea.
It's
Iced tea.
always kind of crazy cold. So
Hot tea.
the last show, I started to ask you all if you had any pre-show rituals. And of course, I'm going to piss off people who say that we don't get to our content fast enough and we're too slow. But I will tell, I never got around to my pre-show ritual, which was I like to put perfume on. I can't seem to start the show without some perfume. So here's one that I've been using. Is this some sort of like maybe dime store French perfume, or it's not perfume, but it's called Océane, and I love it. And the other one is Jamaica Island Lime, and it says, I love this. It says all-purpose cologne, scent of the island for, for the for made in. Okay, no, that's not the part that I like. Oh, where does it say this? Okay, I'm sure. Oh, it's on the other side. It says a rare treat for sportsmen and gentlefolk alike. I love that. So it's a men's cologne, and I actually prefer men's cologne on me. I like the smell of it better. Don't we all kind of like? Do you? What do you think, ladies?
I don't wear perfume anymore, actually. I've stopped
No
wearing it.
scent.
I find that I smell pretty good already.
Ooh,
Ooh.
Rebecca,
Other
how
people like
lovely. I love
Well,
my
that.
smell,
can I
so.
ask? I mean, I guess I haven't upgraded to Skype with smell. And the rest of you have. And I'm like,
Yes,
shit, once again, I
I
needed to
know.
upgrade and I didn't.
We've gotten to smell-o-vision, and it's here. I don't know. It's just one of those things. Like I said, a pre-show ritual that doesn't really make any sense because, who cares? But me. So there you go. Um, and another piece of business I wanted to just say thank you, Facebook, for releasing an iPad version of Messenger. I just saw that in TechCrunch. Yay! I'm going to use that a lot.
Yay.
I like using
Yes.
Messenger. We like using Messenger, and I'm glad it's on the iPad or, iPad only version. So another bit of housekeeping. Hallie, you had an interesting thing that you brought up last show. You had a Twitter fake account that you found out about that was a fake of you, and someone was using your likeness, your kind of your name, and your bio, your actual, but just copied. And
Right.
you on the show filed a complaint right away saying this isn't right. And they asked you for some supporting evidence. And
Right.
what happened?
Well, the show is magical because apparently by filing it on the show, they instantly took care of it and they got rid of that person. But as we discussed last week, I guess I'll never find out who that was. And it would have been interesting to know who was
Mm,
it.
mm-hmm.
I could see from language that there was a lot of international content and that it might have been I would figure it's not in the US. I don't know where, but I could see I saw Russian, I saw Arabic, I saw a lot of things other than English, which was tells me something.
Hmm.
And they sent me a very nice note and said, "We took care of it."
Twitter did.
Yep.
Yeah.
No details.
No
Just
details.
it's taken care
They're
of.
not going to tell you who, but the who is gone,
It's gone.
and you're happy.
Yeah, yeah. And it was like 3 days.
Yeah. Okay.
Fast.
I think that's a
Very
pretty
fast.
good response. Thank you, Twitter. Right?
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought
Really
maybe
happy.
we were going to watch that irritate us for a while. So I'm glad. I'm glad you've gotten
No.
some satisfaction. Of course, and when you don't get satisfaction, take to Twitter because it's helped me.
Yeah. Maybe because we say nice things about them here. I don't know.
Maybe the all powerful G3. And we are three today. How about that? Okay.
Well,
So,
Thank you.
so what's got you ladies bugged, interested, excited, all the above this week? I've got minor notes because actually my internet was out for
Very
like 4 hours yesterday. I was crazy upset and thought maybe the show wasn't going to happen, but here we are. So I didn't do a whole lot of homework. Anybody?
There's so much that happened this week, and it's only Thursday morning, so it's really Monday through Wednesday. It was a lot. Well, there's the Supreme Court decision on Hobby Lobby or
Oh,
Holly
God.
Hobby or
Holly.
Hoobie Lobby or whatever they are, and they're basically getting the Supreme Court to buy the argument that they should not have to pay for contraception that they don't believe in. And it's supposed to only be 4 types of contraception that out of the possible 20 that women could get. But of course, the next day after the decision, they and others are lobbying for additional outs based on religious beliefs. And next up, it's, gee, we don't want to hire women in blacks because religion.
Right.
Nice.
I mean, I almost hate to get into this topic because, I think we're all going to agree it pretty much sucks what's happened. So,
I think for me that outside of, first of all, I read an interesting article, which I can post on our Facebook page or friend feed or wherever, about analyzing the science behind those 4 methods of contraception and that they don't actually follow the argument. But even if we get out of discussing the specific science and issues around contraception, how about just looking at compensation packages, right? I work for someone. Part of my pay is health insurance. If they offer that to me, once they give me the health insurance, it's mine. It's not theirs to dictate how I use. And I sort of feel like, what's next? Are they going to say, gee, we can't trust you to spend the money in your bank account that we gave you, so we're actually going to pay your bills for you. And if we don't like something you buy, we're just going to stop it. I mean, it's completely ridiculous. It's my compensation package. It should be up to me to spend. Nobody's asking the Hobby Lobby executives to get contraception, right? It's each of our own choice. And I get to choose what I do with my compensation package. And it's just crazy that our insurance is linked to employers in this way where they can dictate what we do with our own health. It's insane to me.
I mean, if they said, geez, you have a kidney problem, but we don't really think that you should be taking care of that. Our religious beliefs say that, you should, God wills you to not have a kidney, and that's the way it's going to be. So, I mean, to me, it sounds like they could do that.
I was going to
Yeah.
say
I
that
mean, maybe.
Well,
when
can
they
I jump
when they
in?
change. Oh, go ahead.
Well, so from a healthcare reform standpoint, if we're talking about just the plans themselves, the plans, as by design, they can cover things that you pay for under the plan or not. But with healthcare reform, there is um, a notion of essential health benefits that have to be covered by every single plan. And those are the things that shouldn't prevent you from getting care or maintenance checkups. Every plan has to cover those.
Okay.
They're part of your essential health benefits. It's part of the new law. And contraception was controversially part of those essential health benefits. So the problem here is that now they're also altering or blurring the lines of what is enforceable by the law by plan design. And that just opens up a lot of, I think, potential for other things to not be covered that should be covered. And this was really part of what we needed in order for healthcare reform to work. That plans need to cover these types of things for everyone.
It seems like erectile dysfunction is always covered under everything. So, um, what about that?
Well, that's the spammer lobby, right? They don't want to lose out on
That's right.
Viagra spam, right?
That's essential content.
That's right.
Old white
That's
guys
essential.
win, right?
I
Um,
well, I wanted to say an interesting part of the conversation because there were so many women related issues that came up
mm,
this week that when people changed it to be not about contraception, but what if, like you said, the Christian Scientists say, sorry, we don't want you to have any surgery, and the Jehovah's Witnesses say this and that. So I found it interesting. It's kind of a tangential piece of it, but that um, when you make it not about women, suddenly everybody wants to talk about it. Or else maybe that I just, what did you guys think of that? Did you notice that shifted so much when it's suddenly not about women?
My sense is that there were two pieces to that. One is that they were when people made those arguments, they were looking at the broader
Right,
issues and saying, look, if we let one religion dictate one thing, it's a slippery slope. We're going to go
right,
sliding down it, and everything's going to get screwed up. It's kind of like there's that. I think in Oklahoma they require now that there be a what is it, a crash or something. It's the Christian
oh, the
version of Christmas. And then
right,
once it was required and it was upheld by the Supreme Court, now the spaghetti monsters want their statue, right? Like every religion wants their statue. And now the
right,
Christians are saying, hey, you're denigrating us. And it's like,
right,
mm,
well, it's a slippery slope. Once you open up questions of religion, we have a separation of church and state, and once you
right,
open that up, then you get the spaghetti monster statue, and whatever. So I think that was part of the argument, and then the other piece of it is that, yeah, I do think it makes people really uncomfortable to talk about this, and partly I think that they didn't necessarily understand the science behind the four particular types of contraception, so it's not like
right,
people could really speak to that. But
right,
if you read the articles that really take apart each type, none of them function in the way that an abortion functions. And that was the logic behind Hobby Lobby's objection, was that they don't believe in abortion, and therefore these types of contraception, basically create a mini abortion, and
right,
therefore they're bad. Well, actually, they don't do that. If you
right.
read the science, they don't even function that way. But they just made it up and decided that they didn't want to cover it. And you're right. I think people are very uncomfortable talking about, supporting women and supporting our right to
Mhm.
choose whether it's about contraception or anything else. It just makes
th-
people nervous.
this is not the first time we've heard about Bobby Lobby, Hobby Lobby, whatever. I'm really happy to mangle their name at this point. I kind of don't even want to say it. I'm so mad at
How
this
about if we call
company.
it booby lobby? Yeah.
Yeah, Booby Lobby, Bobby Lobby, Hobby.
Labia lobby.
This isn't the first time we've heard from them. We've heard anti-gay things come out of this company, and we've heard I actually maybe a little anti-Semitic stuff. Reports of them, being in, let's say, uh, predominantly Jewish community, a predominantly Jewish community, but refusing to basically carry anything like for holidays, like they would for Christmas time, where their stores would be inundated with Christmas items. They
Right.
won't carry anything for a Jewish holiday.
Yep.
I've heard about that. And how do you feel? I mean, what's the deal with companies? Big companies having their religious beliefs front and center in their retail business and sort of speaking it very loudly. It makes me feel uncomfortable. It really does. I don't like it one bit.
I think it's inappropriate. I don't think it has any place in a corporation, but I must live in Boston, the People's Republic of Massachusetts, and be a lefty loser because I actually, when you say separation of church and state, if you ask a few people, I mean, a lot of people don't even know it's a concept. So, and I'm going to quickly add, we can talk about a company having this point of view, but I think, yeah, we can put Holly Lobby out of business by not shopping there, but how do we get rid of those five white guy Supreme Court guys
Uh,
that some of these decisions are just like, holy crap, you know?
hmm
They're not even all white. I mean,
I know.
Thomas is black. Alioto is
Hispanic.
is he
Italian?
or is he Italian? But he is not white. In that sense that 80 years ago he would have been discriminated against for being Italian.
Right.
And I mean, unfortunately, they all have this incredibly conservative view that, um, I just found it completely bizarre that they felt that a corporation's religious beliefs were more important
Right.
than an individual's.
that they're
Um,
going to trump their individual
Right.
employees' health be-
well,
health
but
care health
even
care and let's talk about the fact that it's also been reported in Mother Jones that the funds that they're investing in for their retirement funds for the company are quite invested
Right.
in these contraceptive products and
Right.
things that they're railing against. So what the hell?
Well,
Yeah.
not only that, but all their products come from China, where it's been reported this week in discussion about Hobby Lobby that in the 40 years since China has had the one child per family policy, that there have been 40 million abortions.
Yeah.
And that I don't know if that number is
Mm.
correct. I just
Oh,
read it in the press. I don't know, but the fact is that everything in Hobby Lobby comes from China, and they say that they don't have any corporate responsibility.
mm,
But actually, I loved it. One of those liberal
that's a great point.
lefties actually started quoting the Bible, and there are stuff in the Bible about engaging in commerce that hurts people
Right.
and goes against your Christian beliefs. And I loved it because it was like, hey guys, if you're going to do this,
Hmm.
don't be hypocritical and, play it all the way out. You shouldn't be buying anything from China. It says so right there in the Bible, right
It's
next to the part where you're supposed to stone your sister for,
definition of
I don't
hypocrisy is what's going on with these people.
know.
We
Absolutely.
need
Right.
our healthcare expert here on this.
That's right.
I don't think that corporations should be deemed as religious entities. I think
Yeah.
religious entities should
Yeah.
be
Hmm.
deemed as religious entities. Like, when does that happen? Why are we allowing corporations to have that status? That's what I don't
Well,
understand.
the logic is that so this is what one sort of right-wing person who happens to be in my Facebook friend list explained to me yesterday is that basically the logic is that if why should nonprofits who are religious, right, who define themselves as religious, get to own that? Why does somebody check their religion at the door once they make a for-profit corporation? Why does an individual who might be religious on their own check that at the door when they decide to make a business and incorporate? And I mean, it's a good question, but I also think that, that's fine if a corporation wants to be religious, but I don't think that they get the tax benefits of the nonprofit,
Right.
A, because
Yeah.
they're not engaging in religious exercise, and B, they don't get to choose the make religious choices for their employees. I just think that's just
Right.
dead wrong, you
Yeah,
know?
I think it's wrong too.
It shows to me
Okay.
how far apart these people in this country have become. It's I read a very good piece, I think it was the Atlantic, about a young man who marries a liberal woman. It sounds like a joke, a rabbi, a priest, they come into a bar. No, it's not. It was a really, really right-wing guy, had finally sort of seen the perspective from the other side. And really his conclusion was, we live in such completely different worlds now that we don't even get what the other one is talking about. It's not because we're angry or
Yeah.
partisan, it's that the values are so seriously different that it's like night and day. It's, it's what I call the United States of parentheses. East Coast, West Coast, you have two parentheses. Is that where we're going? I mean,
There,
it's
there
very
is a really interesting take on this. George Lakoff, who, the metaphor guy, he's a professor at Berkeley, liberal bastion, but he has been studying metaphor and political memes for a long time, and the way he characterizes these two, polar opposites is, for conservatives, they subscribe to a model which he deems as the strong father model. That model says
yeah.
that, the dad's in charge, and that the mom does whatever the dad wants, and that the mom submits to the dad, and so do the children, and they function in that model. And that same model is then applied to government
Yes.
and other models, corporations. In other words, it's okay for the leadership of Hobby Lobby to dictate to their employees because that's
Right.
the
It's the
strong
strong
father
dad.
model. The liberal side of things, or progressives, or whatever you want to call it,
Yes.
subscribe to the nurturing parent model, where the parents talk and they make decisions between each other that respect everybody, and the kids are actually often pulled into those discussions, and it's a mutually beneficial, mutually considered situation. And then, of course, liberals and progressives apply that out to political structures and the government and corporations and all of that. So we're coming at it in
Right.
these completely different ways. And because we have that filter in front of our eyes, right? It's basically, we're not really seeing whatever is happening just
Yeah.
on its own. We're seeing it with that filter. And
Exactly.
so, and then when we talk to each other, we may use the same words, but we got the
But
filters going, and it's
it
really hard
totally,
to understand each other.
exactly, exactly. And what you're really talking about is power, because the strong father is saying, I'm going to centralize power in one figure, and the other people do what I want, which sometimes is an easier way to manage anything. We're going to talk startups soon and other businesses. And that's saying, I will own the power and you will not. And the other nurturing parent is saying, I'm teaching my kid how to expect to wield power, share power, and grant power to others who, because here the parents don't have, they're not the monopoly. They're saying, we have this power because we're simply older and we're going to empower you. So it's whether you're going to share power or you're going to centralize power. And that's another big philosophical point of view.
Well, does this at all relate, or can I just segue into it maybe with some sort of relation of there was sort of uproar that Facebook was outed recently of, um, I guess, running an experiment on it. Thank you for the coffee, Steve. I appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am.
My houseboy Steve has just brought me some fresh coffee. Thank you. Um,
Is no, no, you're the nurturing parent model. You
That's
support each
right.
other mutually.
That's right.
there you go.
Cheers.
So Facebook, I guess you can call it an experiment. That's the word that was sort of thrown
And we're
out
the
there.
lab rats.
That we're the lab
lab
rats, and they were experimenting with what type of posts made people, what emotions it elicited, and maybe how to manipulate them, or what kind of posts they would um, uh, prefer to see to elicit certain responses or something like that. So, anybody have any thoughts about this? And is that, I mean, we're talking about power. We're talking about doing things, because because you want to. So let's segue into that and see. Got any feelings about it? Were you pissed off about it, or did you not care?
I cared a lot, but
I don't have
I
any
feel
feelings.
like I've been yakking. Rebecca should talk about this.
Rebecca, do you
Rebecca,
care?
talk.
Do you
I
care?
well, as a company owner and being in the startup world, companies are doing this all the time. Maybe not to this extreme, but we're A/B testing. We're testing different emotions on messages. We're trying to test engagement, and we it's a very metric driven way of operating. And so Facebook isn't doing this because they're just trying to mess with people. I mean, maybe they are, but they have a business motive. They're trying to figure out how to get people more engaged. Are there certain emotions that certain people feel that get them more engaged? Are there others? It's all a way for them to figure out how to keep you more involved in their product, which is what they should be doing. I mean, they're a public company now. They have to figure out how not to lose their users. And so emotion is a big part of that. And unfortunately, I, I didn't really notice because I'm not such an avid Facebook user, but I don't really see a huge problem with it. I don't know. Other people can disagree, but it's their product. They need to figure out what works with their user base.
So I would agree with you to some extent that Facebook should be doing this. I mean, every company needs to be doing A/B testing, and you can't do all your usability testing one on one and blah blah blah. It's very efficient to be looking at the analytics and metrics that you are able to
Thank you.
collect. But I think the place where there were a couple of issues for me. One is it crosses the line to change the content and then look at what's happening. It would be one thing if Facebook had rated different posts as being positive or negative, and then as they came through feeds, looked at people's responses. That would be a natural and organic reaction that wasn't manipulated, and then the individuals would react, and they could gauge those reactions and try to study that, and the same for positives. The issue that I have is that they actually grouped everything together and changed people's feeds from what they would otherwise, quote unquote, organically would happen within, based on either activity from friends, because that's often how posts continue to get re-seen in your feed if there's a lot of activity, and based on what they think you're interested in. So they have algorithms and they are filtering, but nonetheless, let's say organically manipulated through the algorithm versus organically manipulated by just saying, hey, let's pull in all the negative and all the positive. My issue is that now I don't trust them because
Right.
I wonder if they're manipulating my feed for this as well, just to see what my reaction is. And here's why I say that. A few weeks ago, and I commented on Facebook about this, and I commented in the room to folks who were with me, and I said, everyone is so negative on Facebook right now. I don't understand, like, what is going on? It
Going
was just
on.
crazy negative. And I don't know if I was a part of the experiment or not, but for a few days, everything was just horribly negative. And then
Probably.
it all went away, and then everything was all light and fluffy. And I was like, I remember at the time saying to people and commenting like, wow, was like the moon out of phase? Was everybody just pissed off? Like, why was it so negative? And now everything's all light and fluffy and butterflies and little stars in the sky and stuff. And the moon is shining and whatnot. And so I don't know. I mean, was I a part of that or not? I have no idea. But now I wonder if I get a spate of negative or positives, is Facebook manipulating me, or are they
Open my
taking
mic.
some other emotion and messing with me?
Well,
I
it
just
it doesn't
I,
seem like anything new to me, though. It seems like they're always tinkering with the feed, and so
but it's one thing to
why
tinker with the
now
feed.
I
But
are
it's one thing
you
to tinker with
distrusting
the
them?
feed and give us all the same thing, right? Because they switch the algorithm, or give a large group of people something like, oh, we're testing a manipulation of the feed that will just give people more things that their friends say. They get
I would
multiple
never.
comments.
I would
But
never
to
assume that an algorithm would be the same across the board. I mean, the whole point is personalization and customization. Now, granted, this was a different type of test. They're doing negative and positive across the board, but I would never assume that the algorithm would be the same for anyone.
I think it felt emotionally manipulative for me.
Sure,
And now I'm wondering everything
I'm
that
not.
comes through.
Is
Yeah,
it
I'm not saying that
trustworthy?
I like it. And actually, the things that I see that they change in my feed, I typically don't like. And actually, I'm liking Facebook less and less, which is why I
Mhm.
use it less and
Yeah.
less because of the way they're
Yeah.
changing the feed. But I feel like it's their right to do so. And
Well,
the,
the other thing though is that they did get IRB certification, but that too has been questioned. So the IRB is a board that looks at how, whether or not you're giving your users proper notice and consent. And of
Right.
course, we've talked about this before. Nobody reads those notices, the TOUs and privacy policies, and the notices that explain
no,
things to you. As John Oliver noted a couple of weeks ago, you could put the entire text of Mein Kampf into the iTunes user agreement, and
And
everyone would just
nobody
say,
would
"I
know.
accept, I accept, I accept." Like we got that, okay. So nobody's reading those, but one of the discussions has been, how do you give users, good consent and good notice, so that they actually know what they're getting into when they do something, when they do a test like this.
Hallie.
I was just gonna say you can give them. I mean, I guess would you have felt better if they said, "We're selecting a group of people. We'd like you to be part of this thing."
Yeah, I would. I would feel,
Okay.
and I
I
would
would
say
have. I
yes.
would have liked that better.
Yeah. And
But
if
I
they
was
had
going to bring
said,
also, I wanted to
we're
just,
gonna look at emotion, and we don't want to tell you how we're gonna do it or what we're
yeah,
gonna do, but we want to look at emotion in the feed. Are you willing to participate? I would be
right.
like, sure. I
I know.
always say yes, pretty
I feel like
much to
that was so
tests.
missing. And all their history on privacy and everything is so against them. And he becomes, hoodie boy, the bad boyfriend.
Well,
Like,
the
hey, hoodie
pro
boy, stop doing that shit. Hoodie
the the
boy,
Right.
the
go
problem
away.
with asking for permission to do that is that it sort of, I
Makes you
think
hyper
it
aware.
taints the test,
yes,
right?
Right.
So
Well,
when you
it's
give
true.
people a heads up that you're going to be testing them, they no longer act and feel like they would normally. So,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know
so I
I
agree
don't know
with
that
you,
the
but
results are all that helpful.
there's ways to design for that. So,
Yeah.
okay, usability engineer hat is on my head. You design for that. So what you would do is, let's say you wanted to do a test of 600,000 people. You'd ask like 5 million people, you willing to join? And you might be in the control group, and you might be in different groups that we're looking at, but you don't say what you're going to do. You don't have to say what you're going to
Absolutely.
do. You just say,
Right.
look, we're looking at emotion on Facebook. Would you be willing to join? And I think at that point, people feel like they've made the choice, yes or no. And you don't know if you're in the control group that never sees a change. You don't know if you're
Right.
in the group that sees something, and you don't even know what to look for because they haven't told you. There's your test. And then you select 600,000 people, and I think you get a pretty good
Yeah.
response.
That sounds rational in a real world. And I just want to throw out the piece that we all read in Time Magazine. This is by the professor, her name's Janet Vertese at Princeton, points out that so much of this research, this is the other consideration, is being funded not by National Science Fund that just is cutting back on. Weirdly, they have an initiative called FIRST, standing for Frontiers in Innovation, Research, Science and Technology, and they have said, despite wanting to study science, technology, innovation, and research, I mean, technology, that there should be no money given to any studies studying social media, online behavior, or internet research. So it's a little contradictory.
Uh,
And so, is
Why?
there a
Why would
way,
that?
instead of having the companies who are being doing the research being the ones funding things, is there any objectivity if grants from other third party and government groups are not there anymore, if that money's not there for the research? And I know you guys know all about research, so what does that trend say to you?
Is it a trend though, or is it a one-off incident? I mean, I don't.
Well,
A
it's saying
company
money
can
that,
do the research or continue to do the research no matter if their partners are there or not. As a former, I don't know, people may not know, but I was a former researcher. I would conduct research studies like this for corporations. And sometimes there would be academic partners, and sometimes there wouldn't be. And a company can continue to fund. The purpose of having partnerships is to really just balance the cost of it. It has
Right.
nothing more to do than that. If
Well,
a
it's
company
like a
wants to,
smoking study. If you're doing a smoking study at Harvard and your partner is Philip Morris.
well, but Philip Morris can continue to do the smoking study if they want to. I mean, they have that choice if
Is
they
it
want to fund
naive to
it.
assume in a research study that you would want government money that would be fairly neutral compared to corporate money helping you do research?
Uh, I don't know. That's up to the participant. But again, if you join research and you don't, sometimes they're blind studies. It's your
Mhm.
choice to join the research. Then if you're doing a blind study, you don't care.
I don't even really have I don't have a problem with either Philip Morris studying smoking or Facebook studying social stuff. I think the Janet Vertesi article, The Real Reason You Should Be Worried About the Facebook Experiment, and we'll post the link, is that, that she's talking about the fact that there's no funding, no government funding for independent research. So I don't have a problem with the companies doing it. It's just that to get balance, you actually have to fund the other side, and that has to come from NHS grants and that sort of thing, and NSF grants and
Yeah.
whatnot. And if we're not funding it at all, then it's out of balance. You
Hmm.
know, that sort of was, I thought that was a really interesting point. Not, since I don't do, NSF grants, I didn't realize that basically funding had gone away for social
Hmm.
media and online activity, even though, as she says, and Hallie pointed out, they've got this whole initiative around looking at online behavior, and then they don't fund anything there. And so then it is left to Facebook and companies like that to do stuff. And they are hiring PhDs, anthropologists and sociologists who study internet behavior to do the work. But the problem is and they did go get IRB certification, which is typically something that you would do, in an academic study. You would always do that.
Hmm.
But they somehow, the IRB certification folks, glossed over some of the particulars and gave them the certification without really totally following through. And there have been, so folks who are researchers, Dana Boyd did an article about this. There's some other folks who said, they didn't really think it was that, they had been as stringent as they would have been if it had been a real academic study.
Hmm.
Um,
The
I,
problem
I
with
don't know how to judge that, though.
The problem with research and the research industry in general is that they're so archaic, coming from the research industry previously. They are not very fast moving. They take 3 months minimum to do a study. They're horribly expensive. And they have not been able to adopt new technologies that quickly. You can see them as old media companies, whereas a company like Facebook can do the same type of study within 24 hours for a very low cost, and so there's really no way to compete with that, especially from a government standpoint. You're looking at a lot of money, or even from a research firm standpoint, it's a lot of money, a lot of resources, a lot of time, and I can understand why they're not doing it. They don't have access to the type of quick resources that the Facebook platform has. They can do a study in 24 hours because they
Right.
have that massive platform that's been adopted by
But
Are we
but
millions
going
then
to
of
are we
people.
going to see a Facebook or a Facebook like social media platform? Not that there is another one like that, but have a research arm where it becomes a bona fide.
Are you
Uh,
asking if
well,
Facebook is
that
going to
that
do a
does
research
exist.
arm?
Yeah, Facebook has a research arm. So
Yeah,
does
they do.
eBay, Microsoft Research.
Yeah,
Dana Boyd is at Microsoft Research.
they've
Elizabeth
had these
Churchill is
research.
running eBay Research. I mean,
Mhm.
all these companies have them, and they have academic PhDs
Yeah.
running them. Elizabeth used to be at Yahoo, and she worked with Yahoo data. The thing is that somehow the researchers at Facebook didn't follow through. I mean, even though even though the folks, like Elizabeth or Dana that I just mentioned, have access to internal data, which, as Rebecca points out, is incredibly valuable, and it means you don't have to take it outside of the company to do the research, so you can do it much faster. I think they're still following a more thorough standard research process, and so the difference between the 24-hour study and the 3-month study is maybe something in the middle where some more time and thought is given. It takes a little time to think through, like, how are we going to get good notice and consent from the users? How are we going to let people know that we're doing this without giving away the goods so that we get an accurate study?
So
I
I
wish that
guess
Facebook would do that.
So
I guess the real
actually,
question is,
yeah, go ahead.
is it a question of opt in or opt out, and have we opted in somehow in a way that we haven't noticed, or maybe we opted in 5 years ago and it still applies. I have no idea.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it comes down to that.
Does some of this just come down to, how many moves can a company make until they start to lose the trust of the people who are using the platform? And I think that, that's a huge question.
Yeah.
And I think it somewhat ties into our previous conversation about Bobby, Lobby, Booby, Bobby, is that, if you start to question the ethics of a company, or the moral standing in your eyes of a company, then you may be more likely to back off, or to at least start to view them in a different way and maybe put your money elsewhere. But the other thing, what I was kind of trying to ask is, can a Facebook exist where third-party companies, research companies, come in, use Facebook as the user base, and have people opt into, like focus group studies, right? Where they, you come in, you opt into a particular focus group study, and kind of do it through Facebook. Maybe we might start to see something like that happening. But I think as long as it's above board and you understand what the criteria is, and what they're really studying, and it's a totally an opt-in thing, then
They
that's
should
I mean,
allow users to
part of
opt
it might
out.
be Google's fault. Can we blame Google here?
why not?
So my
Go for it.
logic in that statement is that Google all along has said we don't want to be regulated around our algorithms for search,
Right.
because
Right.
because this is an organic process. We spider everything. It's
Mm.
fair, right? We don't manipulate the algorithm to favor one company over another, one website over another. Once we filter out spam and link farms, this is the real thing. This is the fair representation
Mm.
across all the possibilities. And I suspect that we have all, the general public has, implicitly laid that same logic at the feet of every other company that shows us some kind of an algorithmic display, whether it's a news feed or whatever, where we say, oh, Facebook, at least they're being fair. They have some kind of criteria, and a machine is doing it, and they're choosing one post over another to display, and one set of comments over another, or whatever, and we get the logic of it, and therefore we think in some measure it's fair. And so
Yeah.
the idea that they would manipulate it and show me only the negative posts just pisses me off, because it feels unfair. It feels like I got manipulated. And so, we could blame Google.
No one likes to feel manipulated.
That's
Um,
No.
maybe the thing that they wanted to find out. Maybe they wanted to find out, would you feel manipulated?
right.
Okay.
They
Yeah,
found
that's
What should
that.
we
true.
do?
I think they
Maybe
found
we're in
that.
the study right now. This is it. This is the
This
study.
is the results.
Were people
Results
going
are
to be
in.
not?
Mary feels manipulated.
Right. They
Yeah.
figured it out. That was what the whole study was about. So does anybody want to talk about the Tinder
Ooh, it's a tender subject. Tender,
co-founder
tender.
sort of thing?
Oh.
Anybody want? Hallie, I think you might want to talk
Yeah,
about that a
I'll
little bit.
start. I'll start. I just want to remember as I'm reading this article, it was by Nick Summers. There's a good, interesting one in Bloomberg Business Week where he gives kind of another story, which is not only was there this sexual harassment aspect to this woman who was their head of marketing or
First, tell us
called,
what Tinder
yeah,
is, and
I'm
in
going to
case
tell you.
people don't know.
So yeah, Tinder is, well, my son and his friend were here at Christmas. All they did was play with Tinder, and it's like a flirting thing. And like the guy's got a new girlfriend. So I'm like, whoa, what are you doing? But anyway, Tinder is an app that's sort of, isn't it kind of like a hot or not? And like kind of social
Hot or
media.
not meets dating.
Yeah, exactly. Big deal. And it's apparently, now we find out, the little baby brother of Match.com, because it was not really, what was fun to read in the Bloomberg piece is, hey, this isn't really a startup. It's like this thing that IAC, an established company run by Barry Diller, this group, had been researching, put together. The woman came in. I can't believe I can't remember her name.
Let's
Somebody
call it a
remember?
spinoff.
Yeah, well, it was, they
her
had
name is
like
Whitney Wolf. Her name is
Whitney
Whitney
Wolf,
Wolf.
because it sounds like a made-up name. It's like a fairy tale name. It's
Well,
incredible.
what's interesting is there's a last name Wolf on one of the Friendster, or I'm sorry, MySpace founders. I think the CEO for a long time, his last name was Wolf too. So just an
But
interesting, weird
unrelated?
point.
Unrelated? Well,
Maybe it's a
not related.
sibling. I have no
Yeah.
idea. Anyway, go
Well,
ahead.
the unfortunate, apparently, Whitney Wolf came in and was working with like three geeks to develop this product at IAC, a corporation that was not a startup, long time standing IAC, and did this thing. And then she did a lot of the marketing by going to sororities and promoting this thing with girls, and then going over to the frat house and say, all the girls that have it, you should have it too, and doing some good grassroots marketing. and
A
and
little
then
bit how
they
Facebook
hire,
was developed, I think.
but meanwhile, these two guys who now are involved as the CEO and the new CMO, who she is claiming was particularly harassing her, they were brought
Justin
in later.
Mateen was the CMO.
Yeah, say it again.
And he's just been put off into pasture. I don't know if he's
Right.
really gone or what, but IC looked at his emails and said, "Whoa, you're out of here."
Really, yeah, and apparently so there was a few crimes possibly that happened, and the crime I care about is the old, you join a startup and the guy says, like you were the CMO or something, and then there's a new guy who's suddenly CMO, but then you have no title and other people don't have a title, but he, the CEO, and his friend from college, the CMO, well, they have titles, and you say, how come nobody else has titles? And they say, oh, titles don't matter. I mean, I've only heard it 8,000 times. So anyway, this was
Only matter for some
seemingly,
people.
yeah. It's like it matters to the guy who has one. Funny. And in fact, I'm being a little facetious, but honestly, ladies, don't be in a situation where somebody says it doesn't matter, because it doesn't matter maybe to somebody, but it particularly matters to women. Because I will
Right.
say, my answer to that guy is, you want me to go out and sell your product. You want me to have a business card that makes people take me seriously and your product seriously. I, in fact, need a title because women so often are not taken seriously. So next time you hear, you don't need a title, it's bullshit. You need a title. And one of the titles that apparently she had before this two-boy frat house fun started was a co-founder, which, as now they're doing so well, it really matters very much if she, in fact, was a founder or co-founder that's been pushed out. So the whole sexual side, somebody else can talk about that, but it really bugged me when I read the Business Week thing that there was a real sense they were pushing her out of the position, back to power and money, of being known as a founder. And it's so messy, too, because she was involved and had a boyfriend-girlfriend thing with this guy they brought in who, I don't know what else he took from her, but he took her job seemingly. So,
Well, there are
and so you can talk about all the harassment stuff. There was obviously horrible, terrible text and all, and horrible language from this guy. to her, and she's
So,
suing
so how
ISP.
often is it that there are women involved in the development of a company or the actual running of a company who are not, either getting credit out there publicly, a bona fide participant of the company? How prevalent is that when you ladies are in and around all types of companies, what do you see?
I would say it's probably really hard to tell. There's not very many women founders, and and
Why is that?
well, I think
Big
when you
question.
decide to be a founder, which I've done, I mean, you're taking an enormous risk, and it's something that it's really hard. I mean, you are just tested every day. It's brutal. I used to say when I was doing it for the 4 years that I did it, that if I wasn't terrified at least 8 times a day, like truly, truly terrified over something, and
Mm,
then you figure out a solution and you move on, and then you got the next terror to deal with.
mm,
If it doesn't happen at least 8 times a day, you're not getting things done. I mean,
Right.
it's really tough, and so I do think that high flying guys are attracted to that. Maybe partly for the fame and the glory, and partly because men are encouraged in our culture to take risks from the very beginning.
mm-hmm.
When you're in the first grade and the teacher says, "Who has the answer to?" and they haven't even said the question yet. All
Right.
the little boys raise their hands. Me, 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 me. They've got the answer and they don't know the question. And
Right.
none of the girls have raised their hands yet. I mean, it starts so early, that conditioning for boys to take
But
risks, throw yourself out there. And so you just, I
but
think I
I
think
don't think so. I
culturally
think
you
that's
attract
true.
more
It's true
men.
what you say, but I think this is a group of women that I've been a CEO, you've been a CEO, we got a
We've
CEO
done
over
it.
there. I This is a pretty not what, not typical group.
I agree, but I'm just saying that I think you ask across the board,
Mm-hmm.
why are there fewer women founders? I think
It's
that's a tough issue. And when
I
I've
think the
talked with
other
women,
parts say this. It's difficult, but we as female founders or CEOs or whatever get no support. Hello, every
there's
single
that
place
too.
I've been, I don't know, tell me I'm wrong. I've sat in meetings with my board, VCs, I'm telling them we should do A, B, C. They completely aren't listening, or they're like, I don't know, So they're like not loving A, B, and C. Within 15 to 20 minutes, somebody at the end of the table with a penis says,
A
"Why don't we
B
do A, B,
C.
and C? We should do A, B, and C." Every guy goes, "A, B, C, yes, yes, let's do it." And I'm like, are you kidding me? I mean, you know it. And I'm sorry, it gets me going.
I think we can all relate to that
Yeah,
happens pretty
What
damn
happens at
yeah,
dinner
frequently.
table?
yeah.
So I mean, it's
There's a lot of cultural issues to overcome, in other
So
words.
it's
A
it's
lot of
I
really
mean,
cultural
hard for
issues.
women
starting
as well as
companies
being hard.
getting funded, and then you have the situation that if you sort of get a lot of female support, women supporting women, and then you have a very uh, female sort of base, then you get the shit that way too, right? Even to name calling, right? So
Yeah.
it's tough.
It's an interesting issue, this thing. So there was another article which we can throw up that we talked about, which was written by, is it Shanona or Shanona Keen, Keen? Anyway, I read the article really carefully. I
Yeah.
wasn't really familiar with her before, but she wrote a highly attuned article about how women are gone after online, whether you're a founder or a journalist or whatever it is that you're doing. The ways, the very subtle but insidious ways that women are attacked online. And one of the things that I loved that she wrote was about the ways that women are discounted. It's that the more success you achieve online, people then talk about how you're visible, but then that's an excuse to attack you, because now that you're a public figure, it's open season. And when you're not that visible, you're completely ignored,
Right.
and that the guys all talk to each other. And that's always been a problem. When I worked at Technorati, we looked at linking patterns between bloggers, right? So this is early social reinforcement of people's expertise and their prominence in communities, right? And often the early bloggers were talking about tech and about social media and about the media, like the bigger media, and the guys would all link to the guys.
Yep.
And so Technorati had this Technorati 100 list, which they still have, but at that time it was just full of bloggers. It wasn't giant media companies on it. And it was all guys. There were very, very few women, even though there were highly prominent women bloggers that the guys would all interact with if they went to a conference and say,
Right.
"Oh, wow, I read your article on whatever." And it's like, well, why
Right.
didn't you link to me when you linked
Right.
to the other three guys talking about the same topic? So this is a long-standing problem that I think
I
men
know.
are used to reinforcing each other, and they're uncomfortable reinforcing women.
Well,
And I
I
don't
don't
know
know if
why that
they're,
well,
I'm
is.
not
here, yeah, well,
sure if
okay,
they're
here's
uncomfortable. I don't know if they're
Or
uncomfortable,
if they
but I
just don't
think,
think about it.
no, they think very soberly about the following fact. We don't have power to help them become more powerful later, so why do we matter?
Okay, that's a very good point. That's
so here's
interesting.
the thing.
And
Even though
Rebecca better
our,
talk or I'm going to come and whack her. Talk!
so when we
Come on.
originally visualized this show, one of the things that I said was it's not going to be a show about women's issues. And here we are almost every week at this point, spending a whole lot of time talking about women's issues. Now, we're women, I get it, but
Somehow
should
I
we
feel
be
like
doing this? I mean, is this helping us? We're sounding off. We're certainly have a lot of camaraderie here, and it's helpful for us. And I think it's helpful to some women to hear that other people are having these issues, these problems, these whatever. But I'm not sure we have solutions. And
Ask
maybe,
her.
I don't know.
Ask
Like, what do you
her.
think about that? How are you what's your comfort
Ask
level,
her.
participants of this show? Are we spending
Hey,
too much
you.
time?
Um,
No, let her
so
talk. That girl. That girl.
When Hallie points, people have to listen. This is
That
the
girl.
rule.
so so initially I think that wasn't the goal, was to talk only about women's issues. And at the time, I don't think there were as many public issues to
Yeah.
talk about.
I
There
agree.
was always the stuff that we experienced and everyone that we knew experienced. But suddenly, I don't know what it is. It seems like the last few weeks, every single week is
Exactly.
4 stories, 5 stories that just cannot be ignored, and they're so um, they're s- they're just so emotional and controversial that
Right.
who else is going to talk about them? We should talk about them,
I think
and
everyone's talking about them. I
everyone's
mean,
talking about
ever
them, not
since
us,
like
just us.
New York Times, Jill Abramson, it's been an avalanche of them. So
It
don't
has been
feel
an
guilty,
avalanche.
Tina. We're talking about
Okay.
the news.
yeah, that
I
is an
feel I
interesting
do
point.
feel that, but I think, oh geez, are we just being like hyper aware and we're just finding this
Well, I think we're
I
hyper
agree with you. I agree with you, but
access.
I kind of want to tell our audience that's not actually our goal. Our goal here has always been to give some women in tech some voice. That's
I
it.
think
That's
that's
it.
fair.
Simply
Yeah.
a platform, and actually, take a little bit of power. I've got this great studio, and I'm using it for our voices. So I just kind of wanted to say that.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that's fair to just explain. That wasn't the goal. It just sort of, we can't ignore what's out there now. I mean,
Right.
who
I mean,
can?
the biggest news stories that have been out there have been, certainly this week, the Hobby Lobby thing has been enormous.
Mm.
And it's
Tinder.
leading to things beyond women and
Right.
contraception questions, and, whether companies should pay for that. Um, it-
Can I
you know,
ask you something about Booby Bobby now?
yes.
Is there a way for us to to do anything now that this Supreme Court case has been answered. Can we do anything about this except just throw our arms up and I
And
guess for
scream
me in
and scream,
disgust.
Denise, Denise. That's what we do.
Yeah,
are.
where's
I mean,
Denise? Denise is not here today. Thanks, Denise.
Yeah.
yesterday, I
And
actually heard that there was a huge amount of fundraising done for Larry Lessig's. I don't know
Right.
if you would
May
call it a
Day.
startup, his new initiative,
It's the
May
May
Day,
Day. Yeah.
which is basically looking at corruption in politics. And one of the problems is that that money is what is driving all this stuff. And so, what he's looking at is saying, we've got to get the huge funding out of politics because it takes away the people's voice. And I think, he's right. And they actually did a huge amount of fundraising yesterday. And I think if you want to do something, the place to start is around campaign finance. And because, those Supreme Court justices didn't get there in a vacuum. They got there
Right.
because the guy with the most money, who didn't get all the votes, won in 2000,
Yeah,
right?
that
He
guy.
and
didn't
what
get all the votes,
we see a
but he
lot.
had the most money and he figured out how to do it. And then he appointed a couple of Supreme Court justices. And here we are with, the five booby lobby guys. And if we want to change that, we need to get the big money out of politics and vote for people who actually represent what we feel is the right thing to do.
But that, as we know, is really slow change, right? So, like, what
Yeah.
can we do? What can I do when I leave the studio today after I do the Gilmore Gang? So we got a double header
Well,
today. What can I do?
We can-
I mean,
we
can
definitely cannot shop there.
We no, definitely
Well,
not
you
shop
don't.
there. I
You
never
don't
have. I never
shop
will.
there.
Oh,
But,
You vote.
here's
You
the
need
thing,
to
Tina,
vote.
is that
mean-
when folks in the 80s said we got to make change, they were playing the long game, right?
Hmm.
They were playing the long game, and 20 years later, they got the Supreme Court,
Right, and I
right?
see the erosion bit by bit by bit,
Yeah.
drip by drip, but now that I feel serious impact. But can I don't want to say I want to hurt them, but geez, okay. Well, let's talk about this.
ahead,
There was
try.
another decision about what is it? Removing the barricade or the
Oh,
the border that you can
safety barrier around the
with
abortion clinic.
abortion
Right,
clinics. Can you say that a little more succinctly than I did?
Yeah, I mean, it was about how much space. It's the barrier between how people can protest abortion right next to the door where a young girl's going in trying to have, not have a baby, or do you have to be a certain number of feet away? And they knocked it down.
Okay,
It's
so
called the buffer zone.
The buffer zone.
Buffer zone.
the right is very good at kind of bit by bit sort of using some laws in their favor. Can we use this law that they snuck in there too? Or
Interesting.
I don't know.
So
That's fair to say
basically
snuck in there. But
protesting.
can I go to Hobby Bobby Lobby Bobby and can I protest in front of their stores, like right in front of their people? Can
And
I do
harass
that
their
now?
customers on the way in and out? Yeah, probably.
You can. It's not going to change.
I have
whether,
lost Mary.
We'll get her. You'll find her. She'll call back. It's not change. I mean, that particular ruling was specifically about abortion clinics. Am I right? So that's different. Whether they want to also do that about you can't now that the corporation has a religious attitude, can you not, go in and stand there with a sign saying these people are jerks? I don't know. I mean, that has not been legislated, but here's legislation. People make laws. They vote in the people who will make the laws. We try to vote in the people who make the laws we want them to make. I mean, just to me, there's like real lack of people being citizens and voting on a level that's pretty distressing. And, we could get into some big conversations here with Hillary.
Well,
the Hillary thing has been all over lately. And I don't know how much, if we want to stand here and say, oh, we're not going to talk too much about feminist issues, believe me, viewers are going to say, please don't talk about politics either. So should we
Right.
just What else have we stepped in?
Well,
Started.
I'm about to go in a couple weeks. I'm going to go to South Carolina, where I not where I come from, but where I spent 13 years. Where the place that uh, I lived when I got married, the place that I lived when I had my children, and where I first, set up my home. And there is a Hobby Lobby Bobby Mobby
There?
place down the street. And I'm thinking, what can I do to aggravate these people? Because I don't have one around where I live. I think I'd have to go like, I don't know, 50 miles away to find one around here.
Okay.
But I'm ready to use like part of my vacation time to like
Great. Well,
irritate the shit out of them.
like Tina,
And
don't
I
get
have
arrested.
some sympathetic friends there who might help me. So I'm thinking about it, and I'm trying to come up. But what about social media? We've seen social media be extremely effective, but what I'm saying is after the fact, after the court case, what do you do? You rally people. I think maybe like boycott maybe is not boycott, but like
It is a boy.
don't go to their stores, right? But how do you really get people to do that en masse?
I think that's
Well, I don't
probably
know.
happening already.
It's probably happening, but I don't know that that's really solving the problem. The problem is the two things: the mentality of the Supreme Court justices, and so that's something that I think needs to change. And how do we do that? And the mentality of the corporations,
I know it
executive
doesn't.
level.
I know it
But
doesn't really change much, but this particular company has had their business in a lot of different issues, social issues, and that it's very offensive to me, and I'm
I
fed up with
agree.
it,
I would
Yeah.
say, well, what
and I
about
don't know that they're
coaching
not
their
going to
employees?
stick their face into another one.
Hey,
How about-
speaking of
how about
faces, did you guys see Bader's mean faces every time she looked at the judges? So I think Facebook needs to hire Ruth Bader Ginsburg and make, negative, content. She can be like,
Just put
And then-
her in the feed.
and then like,
Actually, there was a great thing where it was like 8 photos of Ruth Bader
That's what I
Ginsburg frustrated
saw.
by the mansplaining, and then they show all those photos. It's really
she's
funny. And there's always one of the 5 retrograde Supreme Court justices, is talking, and then she's looking at him like, it's really funny.
it's great. Facebook could do some research on that. I have now interrupted Rebecca 3 times. Three.
Rebecca, she's way too polite.
Well,
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, what about if people start poaching all Hobby Lobby Bobby's employees? I mean, just take away
Right.
their talent.
Excellent.
Pay them more.
Maybe-
Give them the benefits that they deserve.
There you go.
Exactly.
Very good.
And
Well, somebody should start a business that sells the kind of stuff that they sell, not from China, because we disagree with the value set, and that is, that pays their employees more and does a better job, and basically take all their customers.
Disruption
There you
and disintermediation.
this
We're
is
gonna
exact-
Uberize
Hey,
Bobby
don't
Booby.
they do
Movie.
crafts, right? Isn't Michael's a
That's all
competitor?
craft stuff.
Michaels is a competitor.
Yeah.
Michaels
So-
gives the AARP discount too.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Hey, we never heard, Rebecca, on what's the environment for a woman CEO now. Maybe it's very different from how, experienced by me and Mary. Is it different? Please
No.
make it different.
No, I mean, I would say no.
No.
Right.
No. And the funny thing is, when I became a founder, I really came into it thinking idealistically that we're all equals, and more my experiences have just disheartened me. And I just it seems like every week I'm experiencing something that is just very gender biased, and it's become so disheartening. I really thought from an idealistic world that we were all equals, and
I thought that
unfortunately,
too.
it's just not the case, and that's just sad. And I actually have a lot of male friends and male mentors who see what I do, and they're very
Yeah.
honest and say, Rebecca,
This
if this was a man, that you would not be
Never.
treated the same way. Absolutely.
Well,
Yeah,
this is
and
pretty.
That's hard to
this,
see.
This is negative social content.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I will
Wow,
say
we're
that.
so uplifting here.
Hey,
Jeez.
But
okay,
It
so I have the
sucks.
upside of this.
There's
I posted.
nothing we can
there is an
do.
upside, though. There is an upside. I will say that in my experience, though, the media has been a lot more welcoming. And I don't know
Yes.
if that just is related to me or if it's a
It's
trend.
better. It's
It,
better.
yeah, I would say that there's I, I haven't experienced any sort of attack or backlash for being in the media, and I've been covered by the press quite a
Good.
bit, fortunately. And I would say that thankfully I haven't been a victim of any sort of backlash for being in the public eye. I think
Good.
people
Rebecca,
are
you,
open.
I've noticed something about some of your press. Invariably, your good looks are brought up, and has that made you feel
Oh,
uncomfortable, or has it flattered you? And I think either would be fine, but how has that affected you?
well, thank you.
Yeah. Like,
I mean,
I think
here's
Rebecca's
the
hot,
thing.
so you know.
Here's the thing. I used to be rather self-conscious about it because, and actually, I used to be a model when I was younger. I was 19, 20, 21 as a model. And
You're not
then,
19 or 21 right now?
no, believe that or, oh shoot, I shouldn't have said that. But actually in my 20s and even in my early 30s when people thought I was 20, ooh, I shouldn't have said that either.
go
What? You're in
ahead.
your
Go
early
ahead. It's
30s?
all good.
What?
It's all
Uh,
good.
I
All good.
I would say that I have suffered from ageism too. That people in my careers thought, and just ageism and the way I looked, the blonde hair, thought
You're too young.
that I couldn't, that I was young and inexperienced, and that wasn't the case. And so I kind of was shy about that. But now I'm older. I'm like, damn, I look okay for my
Yeah.
age. So I'm gonna embrace that. So talk about all you want, and actually I will say one thing that changed this perspective for me. There's a woman, high powered executive in the healthcare industry who, we were talking last year, and she told me one thing. She's in her late 40s. She said, Rebecca, while you can, wear short skirts because
Ooh,
one day you will
You
have
can't.
40s legs.
really?
Yeah, and she said one day you'll have 40s legs, so show them off now. And she's a high-powered executive, and I thought, you know what? Damn, you're right.
Yeah.
I'm not
So,
sure about 40s legs because Barbara Walters has kick-ass legs and she's in her 80s.
Like
well,
So,
800.
I don't know about that.
well, as long as you still look young, then
Yeah.
Do
she should
it.
still wear short skirts.
Well,
And
Okay, so
I'm glad to hear that you're not offended by that, but I did notice that a lot, and you often have these very attractive shots, and maybe that's me just thinking you're, hot and attractive, and but
thank you.
it had been noted a lot in the things that I had read. So,
that
Yeah,
is that's tricky because now we're again my
mm,
favorite subject. We're back to power. And
mm,
weirdly, like you can't use your female power. They say you're being emotional or girly. If you
or
assume a
slutty.
role, I know it's like you are damned if you do or don't. And so it is. Just use whatever you have. And of course, the big bottom line is going to be if you bring a company public or make some money or sell that company and you have a dollar sign next to a number. And that's the power in this game. And so,
Money talks.
that's the big deal.
well, I mean, I will have to say that it is something recent that I've been embracing. So it hasn't always been that way, and I haven't tried to necessarily flaunt it. I mean, I do the show without makeup on, and
Good Lord.
like I.
Are you kidding
You've
me?
killed Tina. You have destroyed Tina now. Okay.
Oh,
Anyway,
sorry, but
that's it.
I'm trying. Yeah, like
Oh
just try to be myself and.
You know,
no, no.
it's a funny thing. This issue of looks is, traditionally, and I think it's very hard to get away from the traditional frames that we have for men and women. Men are valued for, what position they have and how much money they make, and women are valued for their looks. And so, in a very simplistic way, right? Like that's what
Mm-hmm.
that's the
Right.
the the Tinder, and so that people bring. And so on the one hand, I think, yeah, Rebecca, work it. I mean,
Yeah,
you're beautiful. You should totally do it. But at
yeah,
the same time, it does, I have to say, I also feel culturally that, across the board for men and women, that it's when we take these two simplistic value sets and apply them to men, oh, that guy's powerful, therefore he should, I don't know, have a voice or something. And why is he
right,
powerful? Because he has a lot of money. Really, he gets more voice than the other people.
right,
And
yeah,
and then at the same time, women that are beautiful are more important than women who are not. And
right.
it's, I
But
guess,
do
I mean,
women who are beautiful get more of a voice?
they
Sometimes
may, I
they're
don't know.
taken,
So I'm
they can
not,
be
so I'm not, I don't
taken,
know.
they
I
can be
think
taken less
traditionally, no.
seriously.
Yeah,
Some people take them less seriously,
I
you
think
They,
know.
traditionally, yeah, that's been the case, and that's been my
Yeah.
experience. So this is kind of a new, fresh thing, and I haven't. The way I approach it also isn't. I'm not trying to exploit any sort of press around that. What I try to do is just be kick ass,
yeah.
and
Right.
the rest will just fall
Follow.
into place.
And there
And
And
I think
was,
people will just take notice if you kick ass, and it doesn't matter how you look, and if you just kick ass,
Hmm.
then people will notice. And if
there
people
there
aren't
was a
noticing, just kick more
study.
ass.
There was a study about, from Harvard Business Review. I saw a tweet about it recently that attractive young men are taken more seriously than unattractive young men running startups. So actually, it's there, whether you're male or female. And I can tell you a lot of stupid startups with really good looking guys running them that get a lot of funding. And I really think it's part of it. So why not?
Yeah, I will have to say that I never got the attention because of the looks, and I would have to say that I had to do more to overcome that, and that's why I've gotten press since.
Well,
I've had
and
to
look how.
really do more to get the attention,
Hmm.
Because they
and be more
would not
successful.
take you seriously. They took you less seriously because you were pretty.
No, well, I mean, I don't know if it's a female thing or a new founder thing or a pretty
Yeah.
thing or whatever it is, but uh, I feel like, and it may be just being a woman in general. That's the feedback I hear from other people, is that they see the work that I've done and that it's been above and beyond what recognition would have to be otherwise. So I don't know what is the detriment there, but once breaking through that. I would have to say that I'm happy that there hasn't been such negative backlash
Mm.
around the looks or being female like maybe there once was, and
Well,
that's
look,
refreshing. That's the silver lining.
look how much looks and stature play into presidential politics.
Yeah.
That's been a huge factor. It's
Yeah.
always been, a man, of course, a man of a certain height, a certain look. That's always been a huge issue. A certain weight.
it's
Look
TV
at Chris
culture. I
Christie,
mean,
thinking
It
about
is.
getting in there. That was a huge issue. He's not going to be voted president
Right.
because he's got too much weight on him, which means that there's a health risk there. But even so, I don't even know it's about the health risk. I think it's
No.
about
It's looks.
how people perceive him, and
Right.
always
well,
been a
there's
huge
that
issue in presidential politics.
the weight thing I think is interesting because there have been studies about this around CEOs, that CEOs who are slim and fit are
Mm-hmm.
perceived as being effective because they
Mm-hmm.
can be
Right.
effective with their bodies,
Right.
they can be effective out in the world. And I
Hmm.
think the same applies to Chris Christie, where people wonder, well, he's out of control with his body. I mean, that's the assumption. They don't
Mm-hmm.
really know. Who
Mm-hmm.
knows? He may have a particular genetic condition. It may be that plastics in the water for all of us are affecting a third of us, and that's
Right.
why a third of us are overweight. I mean, we haven't actually studied it. So we make these judgments,
Mm-hmm.
kind of unconsciously, but I
Right.
think the unconscious judgment about Chris Christie is, oh, he's he's overweight, therefore he's not as in control as the next guy who, Obama, who's just thin as a rail. And they take pictures of him eating these giant ice cream cones all the time. And he's just absolutely thin as a rail. And
Oh,
so it's
so
like, well, there's a guy
Oh,
who's in
have you
control.
Right.
have you
Um,
seen the comparison between Obama and Vladimir Putin? It's hysterical. I don't know
no,
if you've
no,
seen
I
this,
would love
but
to check that out.
I think I'm not sure if it was Jimmy Kimmel or Saturday Night Live did some sort of a fake promotional video between Obama and Putin, but it was just really funny because Vladimir Putin, he's doing bare chested all the
oh
time. He's
yeah. Oh God.
national jiu-jitsu
That
videos
guy
and
can't keep his shirt on.
I know. Please. Speaking of shirts on in business, I'm so happy, Rebecca, you left a really shitty business, the modeling business, to join this insane business. At least, that business is crazy. So,
yeah, I mean,
Okay, well, guess what? It's about that time. Trying to keep this show to an hour has failed miserably again.
good luck.
And
there's
I can
just too much
speak
to
to
talk
that
about.
modeling business. My mother used to be in the modeling business. It is a shitty business, although she would model for. We lived in Detroit, and so
Oh, cars.
thereabouts, and she was always modeling cars. She was the woman, sort of, oh,
Draped over
here
the
I am
car.
someone's opening the door to the car, and as a matter of fact, she met my dad, my stepfather, this way. And the story goes, I was actually there that day. His house was being used as the backdrop for an ad. There was a crew out there. There was a crane. There was because they were getting the whole scene, and the male model didn't show up. They couldn't find him. There was way before cell phones. You can't find anybody, and they were losing the light. And it was a considerable set of people out there, and money being spent, and time was ticking, and the sun was going down, and they knocked on the door and said, "Excuse me, we really need you. Can you come out and stand in?" So that's how they met.
That's great.
Weird, crazy story. Okay, so
That's
now that
funny.
I've put my personal life out there, so let's wrap this up. I have to remember that I have to close the show a little slower than I have been because I've been doing something wrong and I can't remember what it is. But Steve keeps telling me to make it a little longer. You're making me make all these adjustments later. So
Okay.
oh, Hallie's doing. What is this?
Slowly.
This is like.
This is
This is like
closing
hula or something. I'm
slowly.
supposed to go with the flow, or
Slowly.
is this slow?
This is
Okay.
fast.
Okay. So
And this
I'm not
is
going to let you bring up
slow.
any more topics. We've closed for the day. Let's close shop, and I'll say I hope that you all get to I don't know, see some fireworks, get out for the 4th of July. I have a feeling that we're going to be like, I don't know, fogged out or too
Ha.
cold here, or it's going to be drizzly, or I don't know, something weird, but maybe not.
We have a hurricane
Oh,
tomorrow. Yeah.
Oh my God, really?
you do have a
Yeah,
hurricane.
It's
Oh,
called
it's Hurricane
not the 4th
Arthur,
of July
right?
holiday. It's the 4th of July hurricane. All rain, all wind. It's called Arthur.
Arthur, yeah.
Is it gonna come up to Boston?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, at least
geez.
people will
It's a
take it more
disaster.
seriously because it's named after a
Wow.
guy.
Well, I had the
my
misfortune.
goodness.
Steve and I moved to South Carolina in 1989, and that was the year of the earthquake out here in
89
San
earthquake.
Francisco. But before that happened, Hurricane Hugo
Yeah.
slammed into Charleston, South Carolina, and we had been living there for about a month. So it was like, what is this? Does this happen all the time? Because we can't
God.
take it. It was, oh wow, we moved there from New York City, and it was like quite the eye opener. And the city was just like devastated and destroyed, and there were blue tarps on the roofs for 2 years. Okay, this is a really long story. I will get into it some other time, but I really hope that you don't have a bad hurricane,
Slowly.
Hallie.
I have to go to
Smooth,
I have a
that's right.
doctor's appointment. I
Smooth.
actually have to go.
And you know what else? I've got to do a Gilmore Gang today. So all right. So,
these are my memorial. These are for. These are my pretending I'm Benedict Evans glasses. Except I
Benedict
can't
Evans?
talk like him.
You mean
you
Benedict?
got the Cockney in there right away,
Cumberbatch?
Hallie. That's no.
That's completely wrong. Sorry.
I don't get it. Benedict Cumberbatch? You mean the
Yes,
Sherlock
he's
Holmes
on
guy?
Gilmore
Yeah.
Gang.
Oh my
He's on
goodness.
Gilmore Gang.
Okay, enough. So yes, watch Gilmore Gang in a little while at 1:00 Pacific. We'll do that live. I'd like to thank Ustream for supplying our Ustream, and they're great. They like us. We like them. New Tech and their fabulous TriCaster. I get to push a lot of fun buttons here and try to talk when I do it, which is always a challenge for me. I've heard that at least I'm somewhat likable, so that I've gotten that from people when we've talked about how I go blah, 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 sometimes. All right, keeping it real. All right. Thank you to Salesforce for their support. Thank you to my good friend Steve Gilmore, who, when he can, helps me out in the studio and keeps this whole craziness running. So, ladies, I'd like to thank you, Rebecca. Thank you for showing up. I know that you've had a visitor, and we tore you away from him, but thank you so much.
I
You're
could see a
welcome.
little stuff in the background. There's like a mirror, and I can see it looks like the reflection
Uh-oh.
of bed covers flopping around. Someone's in bed.
Are there any naked men in the background? Oh my goodness! Oh,
In
wow. That would
Rebecca's
be
background, I
exciting.
can see it.
We'll have to think about that for next time.
Okay, I'm turning
Hell
red.
no
now.
tails. Hell no tails.
And Hallie Suit Tucker, thank you so much for being here. All right.
I'm happy. I'm very happy to leave and find out that that guy, the Gilmore Gang guy, he's gone from houseboy to friend. Is that what
I
you
know.
said? He is?
I'm gonna get such shit later. I'm gonna get such
It's going to
shit.
be my dog walker, Steve Gilmore, and later it'll be like the guy who takes out the garbage, Steve Gilmore.
My-
Also
it's
helps
guy
with
who
The
the
guy who
show.
forgets to take out
Steve
the
Gilmore.
garbage is Steve Gilmore.
He is a special
Steve
status.
Gilmore helps with the
Okay.
show.
And I'm sure he's listening to this. So, oh my God, I'm in so much trouble. Okay, but I do have the controls for the next show, so he can't get too mad.
Just wait
Okay,
till dinner.
and Mary Hodder, we've had a fun time today. Mary, I
Yep.
ran into you at a cocktail function a couple days ago. That was fun to
Yeah.
see you in the flesh. We need to do more. Yes, there's Mary.
Yeah.
I'll point to Mary.
Yes, absolutely. Hallie, when are
Okay.
you coming out? We're going to have a party.
I am going to come out.
When?
I'm
We're having
going
a
to come
party.
out maybe again in August, like I was there a year ago in August.
Later,
and see what
ladies.
trouble I got into.
Oh God, please, we
At
gotta
that
end the show.
party, you talked about this show at that party.
Yes, that's true. This is true.
Okay.
We've got to
Late
see each
August,
other
late
again soon.
August.
Okay, I've got my logo up. You guys are blown away now. So,
Bye.
thank you so
Bye.
much. We will see you next time. I won't say what Steve says, but I will say this. I will say, step outside your comfort zone, go out, do some good things, and come back and talk to us. Okay. We'll see you again really soon. Bye.
Bye. Oh, goodness. I spilled some tea on the floor right at the end of the show.
Uh-oh. Hey, who said you're likable? That was a pretty half-hearted compliment.